Ever wondered what it would feel like to wake up every morning with legs that feel powerful, steady, and completely cramp-free? Let's begin with the most famous of the five, but also one of the most misunderstood. Vitamin D, the backbone of strong legs, balance, and mobility. If I had to start anywhere, it would be with the sunshine vitamin, vitamin D. I used to think getting a bit of sun each day was enough, but I quickly learned it's not that simple. Especially as we age, our skin's ability to synthesize vitamin D from sunlight diminishes dramatically. Combine that with the fact that many older adults spend less time outdoors due to limited mobility, fear of falling, or sun sensitivity, and you've got a recipe for silent deterioration. Weak muscles, aching joints, and loss of balance can often be traced back to a hidden deficiency in this critical nutrient. What fascinated me most was learning that vitamin D doesn't just help with bone strength. It plays a key role in muscle power, neuromuscular coordination, and balance. When I dug into the research, I found studies from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism showing that seniors with low vitamin D levels experience faster muscle atrophy and have more difficulty with everyday movements, like climbing stairs or getting out of bed. They also fall more frequently because the fast-twitch muscle fibers, those responsible for quick reactions and balance, simply aren't working properly without vitamin D. Have you ever noticed how some older people seem wobbly or take longer to catch their balance? It's not just about age. It could be that their leg muscles aren't getting the support they need from this essential vitamin. And while we often associate vitamin D with bones, since it helps absorb calcium, the truth is that its influence goes far beyond skeletal health. It improves protein synthesis and neuromuscular transmission. That means your leg muscles respond faster, contract more efficiently, and recover better when your vitamin D levels are optimal. Now, where do we get it? Yes, sunlight is a primary source, and just 15 to 30 minutes a day of morning or late afternoon sun can help. But for many seniors, that's just not feasible. The good news is that certain foods like fatty fish, mackerel, sardines, egg yolks, fortified milk, and even mushrooms can contribute. Still, even these may not provide enough. That's where supplements come in. Doctors generally recommend 800 to 1,000 IU of vitamin D daily for older adults, though those with a deficiency might need more under medical supervision. I've personally seen seniors regain confidence and mobility after just a few weeks of correcting a deficiency. Their steps are steadier, their aches lessen, and their fear of falling, it begins to fade. What's even more interesting is how vitamin D supports immune health too, which indirectly affects how quickly our bodies heal from injuries, including those stubborn muscle strains or fractures. When you're low on D, everything from wound healing to tissue repair slows down, and your legs feel the drag. I once met a retired nurse who told me she used to struggle just to stand from her favorite recliner. Her balance was off, her knees ached, and she always felt just a little off. Turns out, she had one of the lowest vitamin D levels her doctor had ever seen. After starting a supplement routine and making it a point to spend short bursts of time in the sun, her mobility improved dramatically. She told me, "It's like I found my legs again." That really stuck with me. Another thing I realized is that vitamin D helps regulate inflammation in the muscles. That persistent tightness or unexplained soreness some people feel. It could be your muscles reacting to chronic low-grade inflammation caused by deficiency. And if you've been blaming age for your leg fatigue or coordination issues, it might be worth asking your doctor for a simple blood test. Vitamin D levels are easy to check and even easier to fix once you know. Calcium, the skeletal guard that keeps your legs upright. Calcium, to me, is like the foundation of a house. Without enough of it, everything built on top, your strength, your flexibility, your confidence, starts to wobble. I think we often underestimate calcium's role because we associate it strictly with bones. But I want you to think of it as your body's go signal for movement. Every time you stand up, walk, or flex your muscles, calcium is making that happen. Aging naturally leads to a decrease in bone mass. I remember when I first learned about this, I was shocked to see x-rays of older patients showing how porous and fragile bones become without enough calcium. Legs, especially the femur and hip bones, bear the brunt of this. Even a tiny fall can result in months of painful recovery if your bones are brittle. But here's what most people miss. Calcium also powers muscle contractions. Without it, your muscles struggle to contract and relax, which leads to cramping, slow reflexes, and even instability. So if you're getting cramps often, or you feel like your legs aren't as strong as they used to be, it might not just be a muscular issue. It could be a calcium deficiency working behind the scenes. The fix? Start with your diet. Dairy products like milk, cheese, and yogurt are classic sources, but they're not your only options. I've personally added more leafy greens like kale and bok choy to my meals. Tofu, sardines with bones, and fortified plant milks are great too. Supplements can help, especially when paired with vitamin D, which helps absorb calcium. But be careful not to overdo it. More isn't always better. Too much calcium, especially in supplement form, can lead to kidney stones or issues with arterial plaque. Experts recommend about 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams per day for seniors, ideally through a mix of food and supplements. And here's a tip I learned from a physical therapist. Walking, resistance exercises, and even light jogging help drive calcium into your bones. It's like telling your body, hey, we're using these legs, better strengthen them. One of the most eye-opening things I discovered about calcium is that it's constantly moving in and out of your bones. I always thought bones were fixed, like cement, but they're actually alive, always remodeling, rebuilding, and shifting based on what your body needs. And if your diet doesn't provide enough calcium, your body will steal it from your bones just to keep your heart and muscles functioning. It's like borrowing from your retirement fund to pay this month's bills. Eventually, you run dry. That's why even if you don't have osteoporosis yet, you still need to pay attention to your calcium intake now. Think of it as building your reserve for the future. Every bite counts. I remember meeting a woman at a wellness seminar who had been active her whole life. But after one minor fall on her front porch, she ended up with a fractured hip and 6 months of rehab. Her doctors told her that her bone density was far lower than it should have been, and she had no idea she was deficient in calcium until that moment. That really stayed with me, because strong legs don't just need strong muscles, they need a strong internal framework, and that framework is made of calcium. Another thing I learned, calcium isn't just about quantity, it's about consistency. Your body can only absorb so much at once, so taking smaller amounts throughout the day is more effective than one big dose. And you need the right partners to make it work. Without enough vitamin D, your calcium can't be absorbed. Without enough magnesium, it might not get into your bones properly. It's a team effort. It's also worth knowing that physical activity actually tells your bones where to send the calcium. It's not just eat calcium and hope for the best. When you walk, climb stairs, or use resistance bands, your bones respond by pulling in more calcium to strengthen the areas that are under pressure. That's why staying active, even in small ways, makes your calcium intake more meaningful. I've started adding more variety to my meals just to make sure I'm getting calcium from different sources. A slice of cheese here, some sautéed kale there, maybe almond milk in my coffee instead of cream. It adds up. And don't forget the hidden sources. Things like canned salmon with bones, sesame seeds, and even fortified cereals can really help meet your daily needs. One of my favorite tricks? I sprinkle chia seeds on my yogurt or blend them into smoothies. They're tiny but packed with calcium, and they don't affect the flavor much. And if dairy doesn't sit well with you, there are plenty of plant-based alternatives now that are fortified with calcium. Just be sure to read the labels and shake the container. Some calcium tends to settle at the bottom. Calcium also helps regulate muscle tone. Without it, your muscles can become twitchy or slow to respond. That's why so many leg cramps are tied back to low calcium levels. If you've ever stood up too quickly and felt a sharp pull in your calf or thigh, it might not just be hydration, it could be your calcium waving a red flag. And it's not just the legs. Calcium supports posture, too. Weak bones in the spine can cause curvature or discomfort, which indirectly affects your walking stability and balance. One thing that surprised me is how many seniors think that taking calcium once a week is enough. But it's not a one-and-done nutrient. Your body needs a steady stream to keep everything functioning smoothly. I also try to be mindful of the things that can reduce calcium absorption, like excess caffeine, too much salt, or carbonated soft drinks. I'm not saying cut them out entirely, but moderation really matters here. And if you're someone who takes medication for thyroid issues or acid reflux, ask your doctor about how those drugs might interfere with calcium absorption. It's more common than you might think. Calcium isn't flashy. You don't feel a burst of energy after eating it. But over time, it builds a silent strength into your legs and joints that shows up when you least expect it, like when you recover from a stumble or walk up a steep hill with ease. For me, it's about investing in the kind of mobility I want 10 years from now. I want to be the person who can still hike, dance, or just walk around the neighborhood without fear. And that starts with giving my bones what they need, every day, every meal, every step. Vitamin B12, the nervous system's unsung hero. When I first began researching leg strength and aging, vitamin B12 wasn't even on my radar, but it should have been. This one shocked me the most. Unlike other nutrients that mainly focus on muscles or bones, B12 is all about the nerves. And if your nerves aren't firing correctly, your legs won't respond the way they should, no matter how strong your muscles are. Let me put it like this: B12 acts like an electrical cable, making sure signals from your brain actually reach your legs. Without it, the line gets fuzzy. That's why a deficiency can cause that strange sensation of heavy legs, tingling, or numbness, and it's alarmingly common in seniors. One major reason is that your stomach needs a special protein called intrinsic factor to absorb B12 from food. And as we age, our ability to produce that protein decreases. Add in common issues like acid reflux or long-term use of antacids, and you've got a widespread but silent epidemic of B12 deficiency. I remember speaking with a retired teacher who'd stopped walking regularly because of what she thought was just getting old. It turned out she was severely B12 deficient. After a few months of B12 supplementation, her energy returned and her legs stopped feeling like bricks. The results were nothing short of miraculous. So where can we find B12? Unlike many other vitamins, B12 is found almost exclusively in animal products. Things like fish, chicken, eggs, dairy, and organ meats. That's why vegans and vegetarians often need fortified foods or supplements. And here's the kicker: excess B12 doesn't build up in the body. It gets excreted through urine. That makes it one of the safest vitamins to supplement. Doctors often recommend high-dose pills or even monthly B12 shots for those with severe deficiencies. But I always encourage regular testing, especially if you're noticing balance issues, nerve pain, or unexplained weakness. Trust me, fixing a B12 deficiency could be the turning point in your leg strength journey. What really opened my eyes was learning how slow and sneaky B12 deficiency can be. It doesn't hit you all at once. It builds quietly. One day your legs feel a little heavier. A week later, there's a strange tingling in your feet. Then suddenly, stairs feel twice as hard. That's how B12 works when it's missing. It takes its toll gradually until you barely notice how much strength and coordination you've lost. I've seen people chalk it up to aging or blame it on arthritis or circulation, when in fact it's just poor nerve signaling. No one talks about that enough. When the nerves in your legs aren't getting clear messages from your brain, it's like driving a car with a bad connection to the gas pedal. You press down, but the response is delayed or inconsistent. And the scariest part? Nerve damage from prolonged B12 deficiency can become permanent. That's why early detection matters so much. I always say, don't wait for a fall to take action. If your legs feel sluggish, it's worth checking your levels. What's wild is how reversible it can be, if caught in time. I've heard stories of seniors who went from needing a walker back to brisk daily walks, all because of B12. That's the kind of change that makes you want to shout from the rooftops. One friend of mine described it best. She said, "It was like my legs were asleep for months, and then they finally woke up." That's the power of proper B12 levels. They don't just wake up your legs, they reconnect your whole body to itself. I also learned that memory problems and mood swings in older adults are often linked to B12 deficiency, not just dementia. So if someone's starting to feel foggy and their legs are weak, it's worth looking at both symptoms together. Even your balance is affected. Those moments when you feel like the floor shifted beneath you, or you can't quite catch yourself, that could be the result of misfiring nerves due to low B12. Now, I've started paying attention to the B12 content in the foods I eat. When I have eggs or grilled salmon for breakfast, I know I'm doing my nervous system a favor. It's a quiet sense of reassurance, knowing I'm giving my body what it needs to stay sharp and steady. But not everyone absorbs B12 the same way. That's why testing is so important. Just because you're eating enough doesn't mean your body's processing it properly. For people with poor absorption, B12 injections can be life-changing. One quick shot once a month, and suddenly the world feels more grounded under their feet. And if needles aren't your thing, high-dose sublingual tablets, those that dissolve under your tongue, bypass the digestive tract entirely, giving you a better shot at absorption. It's also one of the rare vitamins that doesn't come from plants. So if you're vegan or vegetarian, you have to be even more intentional. Fortified cereals, plant milks, and B12 supplements should be regulars in your routine. And here's something I didn't know until recently. Stress actually increases your need for B12. So if life's been hectic, it's another reason to check those levels. You can't see your nerves, and most of us never think about them until they malfunction. But the moment they do, you realize how central they are to every step you take. When your nerves are healthy, your legs work in harmony with your brain. You feel in sync. You move with confidence. That's what B12 helps protect. I also make sure to talk to family members about this now. If someone mentions frequent stumbles, numb toes, or unexplained weakness, I always suggest a B12 blood test. It's quick, inexpensive, and can reveal a lot. The older we get, the more important it becomes to focus not just on bones and muscles, but on the nervous system that controls them. B12 is that hidden link, the one nutrient that connects brain signals to movement, balance, and energy. And when you've got enough of it flowing through your system, you don't just feel stronger, you feel alive. Magnesium, the master of muscle relaxation and anti-cramp power. Magnesium, to me, is like the peacekeeper of the body. It keeps everything running smoothly, especially your muscles. If you've ever woken up in the middle of the night with a horrible leg cramp, I'd bet money that low magnesium was the culprit. I've had those myself. Sudden, shooting pain that stops you in your tracks. It's not just painful, it's scary. Magnesium helps your muscles contract and relax with grace. Without it, you get spasms, cramps, or that awful restless leg sensation that makes it impossible to sleep. But there's more. Magnesium also helps move calcium into the bones and keeps it from getting stuck in your joints or arteries. It's one of the reasons why magnesium is essential, not just for flexibility, but also for preventing stiffness and improving circulation. I've noticed that many medications older adults take, like blood pressure meds or diuretics, actually deplete magnesium. Stress does too. That's why deficiency is more common than most people think. The good news is that when you restore magnesium, the difference is almost immediate. Your cramps go away, you sleep better, your legs feel lighter, and walking doesn't feel like such a chore. Great food sources of magnesium include avocados, pumpkin seeds, almonds, black beans, spinach, and whole grains. If you're not getting enough from food, supplements like magnesium citrate or magnesium glycinate are well absorbed and gentle on the stomach. I started including magnesium-rich smoothies in my breakfast routine, and it made a huge difference in my energy throughout the day. One of the things I learned the hard way is that magnesium doesn't just affect muscles, it also plays a quiet but powerful role in mood and energy. When my levels were low, I felt drained and irritable, like I was walking through fog. And once I started increasing my intake, it felt like someone had flipped a switch in my brain. It's not magic, it's biology. Magnesium supports hundreds of enzyme systems in the body, many of which are directly related to muscle efficiency and nerve communication. Without enough of it, your legs don't just hurt, they lag behind. I remember watching a friend struggle with nighttime leg cramps for weeks. She tried stretching, different shoes, even reducing salt. Nothing worked. Then her doctor checked her magnesium, and boom, within a week of taking a supplement, her cramps were gone. It made me realize how overlooked this mineral really is. We hear so much about calcium, but magnesium is just as essential, and often it's the missing piece. It's also tied to hydration. When your electrolytes are out of balance, especially if you're sweating more in the summer or not drinking enough water, magnesium depletion can sneak up on you fast. Another thing that surprised me, the connection between magnesium and sleep. Once I started prioritizing magnesium-rich foods, my sleep improved, and so did my leg recovery overnight. I wasn't waking up with that heavy, stiff feeling anymore. And here's something you might not expect. Magnesium helps regulate how your body uses glucose for energy. So when it's running low, your muscles can feel weak or fatigued, even if you're well fed. It's like giving your car gas but skipping the spark plug. You're not going anywhere without that spark. Magnesium is that spark. Some people assume that leg pain or cramping is just a normal part of aging, but often it's simply a sign that the body's biochemistry is off. And with magnesium, the fix is both simple and effective. I've even seen people use magnesium topically in lotions or bath salts. A warm Epsom salt bath not only soothes sore legs, but also lets magnesium absorb through the skin, offering relief in a different way. And while supplements are helpful, food sources really are the gold standard. A bowl of oatmeal with a spoonful of almond butter, a handful of spinach in a smoothie, or a snack of roasted pumpkin seeds, these are little choices that add up. What's even better is that magnesium helps with inflammation too. When your muscles are inflamed, they don't recover well after walking or standing. Magnesium brings that inflammation down, giving your legs a better shot at feeling normal again. It's also one of those nutrients that works hand in hand with others. Without enough magnesium, your calcium might not go where it's needed, and your potassium levels might not balance out correctly. It's a team player in the best way. And for anyone dealing with restless leg syndrome, magnesium is one of the first things I'd check. That uncomfortable buzzing, twitching, or itching sensation that hits you when you're trying to relax. Magnesium often helps calm it down. I started noticing that on days when I ate more magnesium-rich meals, I didn't just feel better physically, I felt clearer, more relaxed, and more motivated to move. My legs weren't holding me back anymore. They were carrying me forward. Even simple tasks like walking to the mailbox, climbing stairs, or standing in line at the grocery store became easier. And the beauty of magnesium is that it works fast. You don't need months of buildup. You often feel the difference within days of correcting a deficiency. I always encourage people to start small. Maybe it's a spinach salad a few times a week, or switching from white rice to quinoa, or adding nuts to your snack rotation. It's about building habits that quietly support your body's deepest needs. Your muscles will thank you, and so will your nerves. If you've been feeling off lately, tight calves, stiff legs, or poor sleep, it might be time to ask your doctor about magnesium. A simple test could be the start of a much stronger, more energized you. It's one of those minerals that doesn't get much fanfare but does all the hard work behind the scenes. I like to think of it as the quiet technician keeping all the circuits running smoothly. You don't notice it until it's gone. And once you get it back, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. Potassium, the guardian of stamina, muscle function, and fall prevention. I always used to think of potassium as just the banana nutrient. But the truth is, potassium is your best friend if you want legs that are stable, responsive, and resistant to cramps. It works behind the scenes, helping to regulate the fluid balance inside your muscles and ensure that signals from your brain reach your legs smoothly. Low potassium leads to some of the most frustrating symptoms: shakiness after standing, sudden stiffness, or those cramps that seem to come out of nowhere. Worse yet, it can make your legs feel like they're working against you when you try to move, making falls more likely. And for older adults, one bad fall can lead to long hospital stays or loss of independence. What I found most surprising is that potassium doesn't just support muscles, it helps maintain bone density too. It neutralizes acids in the body that, left unchecked, actually leach calcium out of your bones. So if you're trying to strengthen your legs, potassium should absolutely be part of the plan. You don't have to rely on bananas alone. Sweet potatoes, beans, spinach, oranges, and avocados all pack a serious potassium punch. And get this, one medium baked potato with the skin on contains more potassium than a banana. Supplements can help too, but always check with a doctor first, especially if you have kidney issues or take blood pressure meds. And honestly, the more I looked into potassium, the more impressed I became. It's one of those minerals that quietly does its job in the background until it's missing, and then suddenly everything feels off. I remember talking to a neighbor who kept getting these strange twitches in her calves. She thought it was just part of aging, but it turned out she was barely getting half of her daily potassium needs. When I told her that fatigue, muscle spasms, and even heart palpitations can all trace back to low potassium, she was stunned. We always hear about sodium, calcium, maybe even magnesium, but potassium, it's the silent superhero of your muscles and nerves. It's also a key player in maintaining normal blood pressure. Potassium helps counteract the effects of sodium, which tends to creep up in our diets without us even noticing. That's why I try to pair potassium-rich foods with meals that might be a bit salt-heavy. It's a balancing act your body really appreciates. And here's another little-known fact. Potassium helps keep your joints from stiffening up after periods of sitting. Ever notice that slow start feeling when you stand after a long movie or a nap? That sluggishness can be potassium-related too. For those who struggle with fluid retention, those days when your legs feel puffy or tight, potassium can help flush out excess sodium and restore natural fluid balance. It's like giving your legs a chance to breathe again. I also started noticing that the days I ate more potassium-rich meals, my post-walk recovery felt faster. My muscles weren't as sore, and I didn't feel as drained afterward. Plus, potassium plays a role in the electrical rhythms of the heart. Since your heart and your leg muscles are both constantly working, it's no surprise that potassium supports both with equal importance. If you're worried about overdoing it, it's worth noting that potassium from food sources is usually very safe. The body knows how to manage it well unless there's a kidney issue involved. That's why natural food intake is always the safest place to start. I like to batch cook meals with lentils, leafy greens, and squash, each of them packed with potassium, and each contributing to my daily totals without me even needing to think about it too much. And when I need a quick snack, a small cup of coconut water or a few dried apricots gives me a gentle boost. I once read that potassium is like a reset button for the neuromuscular system. When your levels are steady, everything works more smoothly, from walking to reflexes to getting up from a low seat. And as someone who values independence, I see potassium as one of the nutrients that helps protect that freedom. Stronger legs mean fewer falls, more energy, and more confidence. It's wild to think that something so simple, a baked potato, a handful of beans, could be the key to avoiding weeks in a recovery ward or months in physical therapy. So if you've ever had a moment where your legs gave out unexpectedly or a cramp jolted you awake, it might be time to ask, am I giving my body enough potassium to do its job? What amazed me most was how quickly people feel the difference once they correct a deficiency. It's not a slow process, it's like switching from static-filled radio to clear, crisp sound. There's something empowering about knowing that leg strength isn't just about working out or using assistive devices. It's about giving your muscles and nerves the fuel they need to function properly. And potassium does that beautifully, quietly, reliably, and every single day. As I wrap up this deep dive, I want you to imagine something. You wake up tomorrow morning, place your feet on the ground, stand up, and nothing hurts. No stiffness, no wobble, no dread about walking across the room. Your legs feel strong, balanced, and ready to support you through the day. That's not a fantasy. It's what can happen when you nourish your body the right way. Each of these 5 nutrients, vitamin D, calcium, B12, magnesium, and potassium, is a key player in the symphony of movement. Neglect one, and you may feel off balance. Support them all, and you unlock energy, freedom, and joy. I've seen this transformation with my own eyes. Seniors who thought their decline was inevitable suddenly find themselves walking farther, dancing longer, and living better, all because they addressed the root of their leg issues with smart nutrition. Remember, aging doesn't have to mean weakness. It can mean wisdom, especially the wisdom to feed your body what it truly needs. If you found this helpful, I'd love for you to give this video a thumbs up. It helps more people discover life-changing information like this. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a health tip, and don't forget to share your thoughts, questions, or personal stories in the comments. I read every one of them. Together, we're building a stronger, healthier community. Until next time, stay well, stay informed, and keep those legs moving strong.